let's get started with tonight's presentation. Malik, you ready there?
Yeah, let's do it.
Perfect. Cool. So as I said briefly earlier, we're going to be talking about messaging college coaches and just communication and the importance of that in general. But before we do get started, we do always like to introduce ourselves so you guys know who you'll be working with tonight. So my name's Emily. I'm the head of student athlete success over here at SportsRecruits. So I work with our recruiting analyst team, which is a team of individuals who work with student athletes throughout their entire recruiting process, providing them support. I also work with our customer success specialist team. So that's the team when you ever email in to help@sportsrecruits.com, we're helping to give you your answer and really answer any questions you may have about your account. A little bit about my process. I was strictly looking Division III, where I ended up playing basketball at Franklin and Marshall College. During my time there, I worked in the athletic department. I worked with various different teams, and I was also the assistant to the associate athletic director. So really excited to talk about tonight's topic. No matter where you are in your recruiting process, communication is so important. So really excited to get into that.
And myself, my name is Malik. I am an associate customer success manager. I'm actually going on to 6 months here at Sports Recruits, so I'm kind of fairly new to obviously the company. I did play college soccer at Colorado Mesa University and graduated with a sports management degree. I do wish I had this back then, Sports Recruits. So now that I'm working with them, it's been awesome so far.
Yeah, very true. Um, Great. So just to really walk you guys through the agenda for tonight's presentation, what we're going to be talking about. First, I'm just going to high level go over the rules involving college coaches and communication. I think a big thing to remember here is these are rules for the college coaches. There are no rules for student athlete in terms of communicating. All of these rules are strictly for the college coaches. So I'll walk through those dates and the sports that apply to those dates. From there, I'm going to talk about what to say to a college coach and when you should be saying it. Malik is then going to walk us through how to use the SportsRecruits messaging system. So if you're a pro user, you have access to the messaging system. So he'll walk through, give you some tips and tricks on how to use that. And then finally, he'll recap some do's and don'ts of what to do when you're communicating with college coaches. And then we carved out some time at the end to go through some Q&A. So feel free throughout tonight's presentation, if you have a question, definitely write it in, and we'll do our best to answer as many as we can by the end. Great. So let's talk about rules involving college coaches. So as I was saying earlier, these rules are for the college coach. So the general rule in the LSBDI is an institution shall not provide recruiting materials, including general correspondence related to athletics, or send electronic correspondence to an individual or his or her family members until September 1st or June 15th at the beginning of his or her junior year in high school. So generally speaking, I'm going to go through each division here. So Division I, it's either September 1st or June 15th of your junior year, depending on what sport you play. Coaches can start having recruiting-like conversations with you. Some of you may be sitting here and thinking, well, Emily, I've gotten some emails from college coaches, and you probably have, but those are, hey, sign up for my camp, or hey, fill out the recruiting questionnaire. It's not until September 1st or June 15th of your junior year, a coach can start having more in-depth conversations. Maybe, hey, this is where you are in our recruiting class, or we do think you'd be a good fit, or we want it. And that is for Division I. Just to give you an idea, on the next slide, I'll walk through the sports and which apply to Division I and which apply to September 1st and which apply to June 15th. Division II, no matter what sport you play, that date of communication is June 15th going into your junior year. So June 15th, no matter what sport it is going into your junior year, is when college coaches can start having recruiting-like conversations with you. Now, NCAA Division III, there are little to no rules surrounding college coaches and their communication. You could be in 7th grade and have a recruiting like conversation with a Division III coach. So again, little to no rules around Division III. Division II, June 15th of your junior year, no matter what sport that is when you can start having those communications, recruiting like conversations, excuse me. And then Division I, depending on your sport, that date is either September 1st or June 15th, again, going into your junior year. So what's really important here is that these rules are for college coaches. It's very, very important that you're not starting communication on these dates, but you're seeing all of your hard work pay off. You should be communicating with these college coaches way before these dates, expressing your interests, letting them know any updates, letting them know things around events. This is where you see all of your hard work pay off, when those coaches can start having those conversations with you. Oh, sorry, So what can a college coach send to you prior to June 15th or September 1st? So I already spoke about this briefly. Some of you may already received some emails from Division I or Division II coaches before these dates. And that's really probably going to be things about their upcoming camps or clinics, link to fill out the recruiting questionnaire, which is very important that you fill out all of the recruiting questionnaires of the schools that you're interested in. This is how you get into college coaches' databases. So if you haven't done that already, definitely go through your target list of schools, find those recruiting questionnaires on the program websites, and fill them out. Other things you can be emailed are non-athletic or related school publications. Maybe there's a new major at the school, or there's a new building, really anything like that. And then the last one here, a lot of people don't know this, or don't realize this rule. You can receive feedback from a camp or clinic that you attend of a Division I or Division II coach, no matter your age, as long as it's a camp on their campus, no other schools are there, and the feedback isn't related to recruiting. So for example, let's say I went to a women's Bucknell basketball camp. I'm a freshman in high school. I can email the coach and say, hey, I'd love to get some feedback, from this camp and how I can improve. I look forward to hearing back from you. They can, come back to me and say, hey, Emily, you had really great ball handling skills. You have a good form with your shot, but you really need to work on defense. What they can't say is, Emily, if you work on defense, then you will be in our X, Y, and Z recruiting class. So they can give feedback. They just can't relate it in any way to recruiting. So definitely when you're younger or even if you're past the date and you're attending events that are hosted by one institution, always be asking for feedback and also thanking them for their time. So this is the image I was speaking about earlier, where you're able to see, what sports are September 1st and what sports are June 15th. So I'm just going to leave this here if people want to take a screenshot of this. Again, you're going to be emailed a recording of this webinar, so you'll be able to pause it and take a screenshot there. But yeah, this is a breakdown of communication, visits, and all of that good stuff. Great. So we talked about the rules surrounding college coaches and communication. And we also talked about that even with those rules, you should start communicating way before those dates. So what should you be saying to college coaches? First message that you should be sending is that introduction message. This is a basic message. It doesn't need every single thing about you academically and athletically. That's what your SportsRecruits profile is for. But you just need some basic information, who you are, your class year, your position, maybe, your high school, athletic advocates. And then the next one here is really important in that introduction message is expressing your interest in that program or school. Now, it's really important you're getting specific with this. College coaches know when you're simply copying and pasting the same template to a ton of different schools. Now, you don't need to give like a paragraph or, you can give 1 or 2 sentences on why you're interested in that program or school. If you have an upcoming event, letting them know about that event, and then video as well. What's so great with the SportsRecruits messaging system is that you don't need to attach any video, because whenever you send a message through the messaging system, there's a link that's embedded. And when they click on that, your video is right there. So you do not need to worry about including video. It's also really hard to include video files because it's, a large file, and you usually can't send that via email. Other reasons to be reaching out is around events. So doesn't make sense to attend an event if coaches do not know you're there. So we suggest sending this pre-event message anywhere from 7 to 10 days before that event. Obviously, things happen. Maybe schedules come out a little later. If it comes out closer to the event, that's fine. Just send it as soon as you get that schedule. College coaches, they attend events with a predetermined list of student athletes who have reached out and expressed interest. They're not just like walking around from field to field trying to find the best player. So important things to include in that message are the dates of the game, the times, if you know who you're playing, your field number, your jersey number, and jersey color if you have that as well. Really any information that college coaches will be able to easily identify you at that event. Other great things surrounding events are post-event, which we spoke about briefly. It really goes a long way when you send that message after a camp, clinic. Maybe it's a showcase where you worked with a coach, thanking that coach for their time. Maybe you learned something specific from that camp or clinic, referencing that, asking for feedback, and then always restating your interest in that program or school. You should always be stating your interest in a program or school whenever you message a college coach. A question we get a lot is, how frequently should I be reaching out to a college coach? Is it every 2 weeks, once a month? And unfortunately, there is no magic number or magic time for how frequently. The general rule of thumb is you should only be reaching out if you have new information to share. So we have a list here of general updates, right? Hey, I just put together a new highlight reel video. I'd love to get some feedback on that. I just got my transcript. I have a 3.8 with taking X, Y, and Z honors courses. Hey, I'm going to a showcase this weekend. I hope you get to see me play. Here's my schedule. Acting for a coach to get on a phone call. Maybe they have a big rivalry game, wishing them luck. Any information that you think a college coach should know is when you should be emailing them. If it happens to be a week or so apart, that's totally fine. I've spoken to college coaches in the past, and they've said to me, Emily, if I don't hear from a student athlete in 3 or 4 months, I'm going to assume that they lost interest in our program. So that's a really good, again, another rule of thumb. You should have something to update college coaches in a 3 or 4 month span. Also, too, we have a pro tip here. College coaches, they want to hear from the student athletes directly. Now, what's great about the messaging system is if you're, let's say your parent or guardian is logged into their account and you guys are typing together to send a message, it will always come from the student athlete, and you don't need to worry about it coming from a parent or guardian or someone else who has access to the account. But yeah, coaches, they want to hear from the student athletes, and these are the type of things that they want to hear about throughout your entire recruiting process.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily. So now I'm going to be talking about using the SportsRecruits messaging system. So obviously, by the numbers, committed players contact twice as many schools. And another stat here is committed players send 2.5 more messages to college coaches. Another thing that I did want to talk to you guys about, obviously, you're going to be spending more time in the messaging system. That's going to be your way of communicating with college coaches, finding different schools. One rule of thumb that we always like to express here at SportsRecruits is having a list of target schools, and then going down that list of target schools and start to message each college coach. What I really love about our messaging system is it's very gender specific. So you don't have to worry about if you're messaging the right staff on that for the university. So for myself, as an example, I'm a male athlete, soccer, and I want to reach out to Colorado Mesa University. I could just type in Colorado Mesa University here, as you can see, or Duke University, and it's going to give me that staff's contact information for the men's program, which is great. And then obviously, if this is supposed to make it very easy for you guys as the athlete, the messaging systems makes it very easy for you guys as the athlete to come in, start to look up schools, start to send messages, and we have already the contact information for those schools ready to go for you. A
Yeah.
few tips here for the messaging system. Obviously, reach out to the full staff. You never know. You never know who is in charge of the recruiting process. So it might be, the head coach or the assistant coach. So making sure you just reach out to all of them. That's going to make it very easy for you guys. And then obviously the subject line is, including your name. For me, like I'm a forward, so including them, my position, my grad year, and then the reason for the message. That's always good practice. And then within the messaging system, you guys can notice that there's a hyperlink. That hyperlink, like Emily mentioned, is specifically tailored to you guys' storefront. And so if a coach were to click that, it's going to take them back to your storefront. He's going to get more information about you as the athlete. And that will also generate a notification for you, letting you know that, hey, this coach was viewing your profile. And if the coach were to view your video as well, that will generate another notification letting you know he was viewing your video, which is awesome.
Yeah, for sure. This just shows it.
Perfect.
Yes. So it comes to your activity feed, and then you can also set up notifications via text message or email, depending, what you'd rather get.
Perfect. And do's and don'ts of when you're using the messaging system, I'll go one by one here. So do's is obviously express your interest in every email. I think Emily hit on this earlier. You don't need to write a full paragraph, but make it where you're showing your interest to that coach, letting them know why you want to attend university. And then obviously the don't is use copy and pasted email template. Obviously, this is super important because you might make a mistake that you didn't realize and you had the wrong name of the coach, or you spelled, or you put in a different university. So making sure that you tailor each email to that specific program. Check your grammar. Obviously, this is super important. I recommend having Grammarly on your web browser. This has helped me out a lot. And we also have spelling checking grammar already installed. So you guys that's already good to go. Don't is obviously write the wrong school/coach name. You want to make sure that you guys are spelling out their name right, the school's name right as well. I think that's super important. It just makes you look more professional when you're sending out these messages. And then do is, list the name of the coaches, even if you're just messaging. This is super important because if you're messaging multiple coaches, so like the head coach and the assistant coach, you want to make sure that you're including them both in the email. What else? Asking about scholarships. I think this conversation can be a little bit down the line, but for now, when you're messaging the coach and you're just showing interest, just kind of show him why you're a good athlete for that program. And then obviously, scholarships can come down later on in a different conversation. And then include video whenever available. Obviously, when you're using our messaging system, that hyperlink will take them back to your storefront, so they'll be able to see the video right away. So you don't have to worry about too much about that. Don't go too long without checking in, or sorry, emailing every day. You don't want to spam the college coach and just emailing him random things that don't pertain to the recruiting process or your interest. Just keep it where it's at 3 to 4 months. I think Emily mentioned that. Or if you want to obviously check in, letting him know you're attending an event, you letting him know that you're going to this event for him to, obviously possibly come check you out. That's always a good rule of thumb. Do's list your phone number in your signature. This is super important. I think with our messaging system, we have a setting where you're able to go in and have your own signature. So that's awesome. So every time you're sending an email to a college coach, your signature will pop up, which gives you that little touch of professionality, which is awesome. And then go I think I've hit on this, go too long without checking in, and then assuming a coach will initiate contact slash interest. You don't want to leave it where it's 6 months and you haven't checked in with the coach. Obviously, just continue to check in and seeing if there's any upcoming camps or you have any like video that you want to share or something like that. You always want to make sure you're checking in, and make it personal. This is super important. Just making each email personal to each coach, and then don't get complacent. Obviously, if one, university didn't work, continue to message another one, and obviously, yeah, just don't get complacent.
Yeah. Don't sit back and wait for the coach to come to you.
Exactly.
They're creating a list of student athletes who have reached out and shown interest in their program. Awesome. Thanks, Malik. So just a high level recap what we talked about tonight. Roles involving college coaches. There are no communication rules for those student athletes. These are strictly around the college coaches. For Division One, depending on your sport, that communication date going into your junior year is either September 1st or June 15th. If you're looking at the Division Two level, no matter what your sport, that communication date is June 15th going into your junior year. And then Division Three, there are little to no recruiting rules. They can have a recruiting like conversation with you no matter what your age is. We talked about what to say to a college coach, starting out with that introduction message, and then continuing to reach out if you have any updates around events, academic updates, athletic updates, is when you should be reaching out to college coaches. Malik talked about the messaging system and how it makes it so easy to reach out to college coaches. Those few tricks he shared with us. Remember to email the full coaching staff. You don't know who's in charge of the recruiting process. Make sure you have a strong subject line as well. And then he walked us through the do's and don'ts of when communicating. So I have about 5 or so minutes here. Just going to unshare my screen so we can jump into questions. And I see we had a few come in here so far. Sorry, just reading through. Someone wrote, what if you don't have a lot of video highlights yet? So video is really, really important during your recruiting process. If you don't have a lot of video highlights, some is better than none. So like if you have even 4 clips, put them on there, put video on there before you start messaging college coaches. And then you can gradually build up and create more, like create longer highlight reels. But honestly, anything is better than none.
One asked if we can share the YouTube video. We do have a system of embedding YouTube videos into our platform. So yeah, you're able to share the YouTube video if you have it on YouTube already.
Yeah. This is a good question that came in. After 9/1, is it okay to ask a coach where you stand on their list of recruits? Yes. So if you've been messaging a coach for a while and then September 1st came and maybe you didn't get a response or he or she hasn't told you where you are, what we say is to send a what's called a feet to fire message where you like say, hey coach, I'm super interested in your program. I'd love to hear where you are in your 2025 recruiting class and if you're still looking for X, Y, or Z position. That's how we always tell people to ask that question. And it's totally fine as long as you have been emailing before. Don't put that in your first like introduction message. So someone said do's and don'ts with music in my highlight reel video. Most of the time college coaches are going to mute it, to be honest. It's usually just for the student athlete and their family. But just make sure it's appropriate is my only do. How long should you wait before emailing a coach again if you have not heard from them? So again, we kind of talked about this. It's really not about the timing. It's really only if you have something to update them about. You shouldn't just check in with the coach and say hi or send the same email again. If you have an update for them and maybe it was a week after you send an email, that's totally fine. There is no like time limit to wait as long as it's something new and something that you believe they should know. Um, if a senior if a senior is late in this process, what are some tips for him? Not reached out to coaches yet, but are a strong player. I don't know if you have any suggestions, Malik, with that, or if you want me to take that one.
I think just honestly continue to be proactive and just message the schools that you have favorited already,
Yeah.
and just giving it your best shot. Obviously, including the video, as much information as you can possible. All the events that you have coming up, you want to make sure that college coaches know about those. And it's super important to also have updated video.
Mm-hmm.
Since you are a senior, just kind of give them, you've had 4 years, obviously, with a lot of video, just to include something with that's very recent. That's super important.
Yeah, I agree. Like, don't take yourself out of the running. Give it a try. You don't want to look back and say, "Hey, I wish I did the recruiting process." I mean, yes, senior year is a little late, but you'll never know unless you ask these coaches if they're still looking for your position. Um, Someone asked, when should you send an intro message? Like, what grade? Everyone, you know, starts their recruiting process when they feel what's best for them. Here at Sports Recruits, we always say the earlier the better. So you can really see that process through and really see the progress that you made on those dates when those coaches can communicate with you. So I would say as early as freshman year, start sending those messages.
And somebody else asked as well, should I tell a college coach which other schools in particular are also talking to me? Honestly, I think you shouldn't. Just keep it kind of between you guys, between you and that coach, and just not include any of the other conversations you were having.
Yeah. And I think too, it's like, are you at the very end of your process and this person has given you an offer and said, "Hey, what other schools are you talking to?" That's usually when they would ask that question. And I agree with Malik. Like, you can be vague. You can say, "Hey, I'm talking to schools in this conference or this conference." It definitely depends on how far you are with that particular program for sure. Okay, I think we have time for like two more questions here. The ton of questions coming in, guys. Um, is it important to register with the NCAA before junior year? No, I feel like a lot of people put a ton of pressure on getting your NCAA eligibility number. Um, it's very easy to get. I mean, it's just kind of tedious filling it out online. It's only required for Division 1 and Division 2. You do not need it for Division 3, and you can fill that out your senior fall. Like it's honestly really hard to not be able to get your NCAA eligibility number. Most people are fine. You take the correct courses, so it should be relatively easy.
And then we also had another question, which was, should video highlights only be game highlights, or can they be also be of workout/practice? I think for me personally, a coach would want to see you in game, and seeing your best plays during the game. That would be ideal because then you could just send action shots of just those specific plays of yourself in the game. And that's how you
Totally.
usually assess an athlete.
Yeah, totally. That's a highlight reel is in-game footage. If you want to do practice footage, that's what's more considered a skills video. So yeah, Malik is right with that. For a highlight reel, it's in-game footage. All right, let's take one more question here. Well, this is an easy one, but we'll actually take another one too. Is this meeting recorded? Yes, it is. You'll be emailed a recording of this webinar, and it's also going to go on our YouTube channel. Someone asked a question, and I can't really find it, but I think they asked a follow-up question about what types of questions should you be asking on a visit or on a phone call. They actually gave some really good examples. What does a typical day look like for a player during the season and off season? What are your expectations for incoming freshmen? How would you describe your coaching style? Those are all great questions. When you're on a phone call or you're on a visit, you should only be asking questions that someone who's a part of the coaching staff or who's a part of the team can answer, not something that can be looked up easily on Google or on the program page. Like, you don't want to ask a coach what their record was last year. Only something that they would be able to answer. Awesome. So guys, thanks so much for asking these questions. They were all great. And thanks for joining us tonight. Communication is so, so important. So it's a really great topic. We were happy we were able to go through this with you guys. Again, you'll be emailed a recording of this webinar, and it'll also be posted on our landing page. We have a bunch of webinars. We have 2 other webinars this month. I believe we have a webinar around events and the importance of events. And then we also have a Sports Recruits 101. So definitely sign up for those if you haven't already, and have a great night.